Hello, faithful viewer. I'm Julie Gardner, executive producer.
I'm James Strong, the director.
I'm David Tennant. I play the Doctor.
Now, this is already a bit weird because we need to say that David is not only participating in the podcast, he's filming the podcast on his little camera.
I've been video diarying my life to varying degrees over the last 4 years, and I'm just trying to find a new angle. So this is it.
This is it.
But we're in a very dark room. So what function do you have on night vision?
You're all on night vision.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know that that's really helping the audio experience now for our listener. But I suppose it's good to set the scene for them.
But they'll seek it out on the video diary.
I hope so,
moment.
Yes. It's a proper cross-platform,
it is a
multimedia.
360-degree experience.
The BBC would love it.
Yeah.
So now, meanwhile, James, while David goofs around, what are we seeing
to the business
here?
in question.
How hard was this to film?
Well, actually, it wasn't very hard. It was just required an inordinate amount of planning and putting together all the different bits. So you had the bits we did in our set, and then the bits we did at the museum in Cardiff, which is most of it actually, which is Christina coming up and down on the wires. So the biggest thing was working out actually how we could get her completely suspended upside down and moving up and down, and there was lots of talks of bringing in cranes and rigs and scaffolding things. And actually the most simple thing was they just put two big bits of wire across the top of the roof, and then it sort of
hung her
up and down, and she came up and down on these amazing pulleys. And actually Michelle did most of the work and stuff, so it was but it worked really well. It was amazing.
Now, David, this must be quite weird for you because it's quite an extended opening sequence without you.
It's a whole bit that I had no experience of at all. Yeah. It was all done in a couple of days, though, I think.
Yeah.
It was right at the start.
We did it actually. We did a few days before.
It was the
arrived.
first thing you did, wasn't it? Yeah. Which it must have been a bit of a baptism of fire for Michelle, I suppose, on her own.
Day one.
Day one, first shot, hanging upside down, 60 feet above the ground.
She was very game, though, Michelle.
She really was. And
really up
particularly
for
in the
all
desert.
that stuff. Yeah.
I think with the Bionic Woman and stuff, she sort of said she wanted to do all of it and as much of the stunts as she could. And she was great and did all the running around.
And she was in, we'll get to it, but locations that were very chilly while hanging upside down. And she was a real trooper.
Yeah, she was.
Just watching the rushes take after take.
It's an episode of weather, really. There's a lot of different temperatures and temperate and climates and continents.
Were you ever at a particularly low point, James?
Temperature-wise? Well, I was certainly... I was minus a few times. Yes, we had some challenging weather issues across the whole episode, but nothing we couldn't handle. But it was. Even this was really wet and cold, and it was just this. You must forget now is the depths of winter, and it was it was freezing. But no, this was. Yeah, this was we did a week of night shoots, I think, didn't we? And this was again. This was, I think, one of the ones
we did more than a week of night shoots.
Yeah, we did.
The entire episode was night shoots.
That's right. We did a month of night shoots.
Apart from
the days in the desert.
The days in the desert, which were very much the day.
Yeah.
But no, it was all night. Apart from that,
it was.
Now, of course, this is our first big foray into HD.
Hurrah!
Indeed. And James, you pushed hard for that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. There was sort of, we're talking about the specials and how we were going to do them, and it just felt that this was the right time to go to wouldn't it be great? There were specials. This is the time to go to HD and make them as and a few years ago, sort of. Other shows started to go to HD, and we'd always kind of resisted for various reasons.
What were the reasons? Let's enlighten our faithful viewer as to why we've resisted HD as long as we have.
Number of reasons. It's the number of special effects that we do in post-production.
Because they're more expensive on HD?
And they're more time-consuming.
Right.
Because the quality of the picture is so much more detailed, the work required in post-production needs to be more detailed. Also, and there is still a problem with HD in that you can't do slow-mo, which was not a problem in this episode, but on the Mars episode coming next, filming the explosion, we had to shoot in 35mm, which is something you want to avoid because obviously that film stock is much more expensive.
We did a lot of slow-mo in the next... we don't want to leap ahead to it later. But we've got lots of... The Varicam, doesn't that?
You can do...
Is that a piece of kit that solves that problem?
It's a different type of slow-mo. You can't do super duper 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 sort of the tennis ball completely slow mode in HD. It's harder with the camera. It's not really the format. It's the cameras don't actually lend themselves to some of them do, but some of them do a kind of version of it which is sort of half speed, which is the Varicam does it's 50 frames, so it's kind of half as you could do sort of half slow mo, but it doesn't do
for our Mars episode. It was a big explosion.
Yeah,
that we needed to get as many frames as we possibly could.
Yeah. So traditionally you would do that on 35mm or...
And do you still think, James, that the HD cameras are a little bit bulky?
They are a little bit bulky. I think they're getting better, and I think the crews are getting better at using them, because I think part of the reason as well we went on to HD was there's sort of most other productions, in fact it felt like nearly every production had kind of, in the times we've been discussing HD, had gone to HD, so it kind of then also... We were one of the only few programs still on SD.
And I love it. It looks beautiful. The detail is amazing.
Oh, it does, yeah.
It does look just that little bit better. It just looks amazing. And I think also so a lot of the crews were used to using HD. Torchwood has been on HD for a while, so a lot of the crew are the same on Doctor Who, so they were kind of used to using HD, so it kind of all made sense in it. And also we're going to we're going to the desert, and the way it handles the light is better. For all of those reasons, it seemed like a good thing to do.
David, what was it like being trapped on a bus for so much time filming?
It was fine. I mean, it's fiddly because every time you do a take, you have to be in continual motion. So then when you hit a traffic light, you have to cut, or you have to, start again. Or we did a lot of driving round Cardiff streets to be able to get a long enough track of road where we could. Did
any of the public try to get on your bus?
I don't think they did.
Not really.
No.
The hardest bit was the tunnel, because we had this quite a long scene to shoot inside the tunnel before we just hit the wormhole. But the tunnels are only about 30 seconds long, even if you're driving really slowly. So we had to sort of do about...
Yes, and getting round the roundabout at one end to go round the ring road to come back under the tunnel again. Yes, we used a lot of time up that way, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was amazing to have access to that tunnel.
Oh, it was. That amazing tunnel that we were initially, Gareth, the locations was thinking we'd have for 1 day, 2 days, 2 nights at the most, and then we were there for 4 nights. They shut this major tunnel in Cardiff for 4 nights.
The traffic control people of Cardiff, we owe a great debt to.
We do.
In filming this episode, don't we?
Now look, here we are, about to step out onto the sand of Dubai. How amazing is this crane shot? Finally achieved on your second day.
Yeah.
After sandstorms wiped you out on day 1.
Yes, this was the thing at the moment, and actually when I actually thought, oh, hallelujah, we've actually come to Dubai and we're going to get what we kind of need, because before that it'd been a bit more than a bit touch and go.
I suppose we should explain to anyone who's missed the story that we had 3 days of shooting in the desert, didn't we? And the first one was pretty much wiped out in its entirety by a virtual sandstorm.
Well, David, it was described to me that you looked like a member of a boy band, because on day 1 the sand was so ferocious in your face and hair you turned blonde.
It filled my hair.
Big hair.
More than a boy band, I looked like Tina Turner. Because not only did it make me blonde, it increased the volume of my
big hair. There's one shot later, which I will see your spot, where the big hair, you are sporting a massive barnet.
Well, just about the whole of the first day ended up on what we managed to shoot, which was very limited because it was so unpleasant and uncomfortable and difficult.
It's hilarious. It's literally, we're standing in the middle of we were literally in the desert in the middle of a sandstorm.
Yeah.
And it's completely unusable. So the entire first day was completely... Well, we shot 3 or 4. All we could do was little tiny close-ups. Everything else was.
The one bit that almost survives is the bit later on clamping the clamps onto the wheels.
Yeah,
and that's where you can just about spot my Tina Turner fright wig briefly.
And we were a bit cursed on this episode because, of course, that very beautifully damaged bus was not damaged by us in any design capacity.
No,
what we're seeing was a bus that was taken to Dubai, shipped beautifully and thoroughly with insurance and all documentation, and then in Dubai port had a great big container dropped on it. That was a good moment.
I remember you phoned me. I was coming up to the office, and you said, there's been a little bit of damage to the bus. I think is what you said. Well, how much damage? A lot of damage. And I got in and then we saw the photo, and you couldn't be... it was one of those. Oh my! You couldn't believe it. You just couldn't imagine what had happened to our beautiful, pristine bus that had left Cardiff. And this was a week before we were starting filming, so
Yes.
it presented all sorts of challenges.
Yeah. It was a sad moment for the design department, but I think the end result actually is
Oh, it was brilliant!
marvellous.
It was brilliant.
Quick couple of rewrites.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't imagine the bus was ever meant to be pristine.
Exactly, and actually, it kind of makes more
perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. Wormholes, dangerous thing.
Yeah.
David, how hard is it marching around the sand? Because later on, you're running down dunes. Was that a bit tricky?
It is a bit tricky. Just running on sand is quite difficult, just because you don't get the purchase on your on your heels, and you'll suddenly hit a drift of sand where your legs disappear from under you. It's quite good for the calf muscles.
Did you tone up?
We all worked out.
They probably did tone up by the end. Yeah.
But you didn't fall over, though, did you?
I didn't fall over.
No, Michelle did.
There may have been other people who took a couple of tumbles.
A couple, wasn't there? There was a couple of issues.
Yeah.
David, is that... I'm detecting a slight tone here. Was James distinctly unsympathetic? Was he simply yelling,
No.
next day?
The first time Michelle fell over, it was Michelle, you could hear me shouting in the rushes, keep running!
Yes.
Keep running!
That is...
I thought it was great. It was quite a good moment.
It looked quite good.
Yeah.
James, that is in fact what I'm referring to,
Yeah.
having viewed the rushes from the safety of my Cardiff office.
The day, because he's such a gentleman, he stopped and went back and helped her up. And I'm going...
I'm such a sap. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. The world's ending. Earth is about to be destroyed, and you're going back to pick the girl up.
Yeah, but it would have been quite a rewrite at that
Yes.
point that
She didn't
the
make
doctor
it back to
saves
the
the
bus.
world at the expense of Lady Christina's life because she gets eaten by a stingray.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Fair enough.
They had to rewrite so many other things.
Yeah. Oh.
So this is towards the end of the shoot, actually, wasn't it? We did this when the sort of, because actually, even though we were in the desert for 3 days, the difference in the light between the sort of midday and then 2 hours, every single moment it was changing. So actually, bless him, Mick.
The two shot that we just cut away from, we did twice, didn't
Yes.
we? We tried to slip it in the end of one day, and it was just too dark. We had to do it again.
So these quite long scenes, and actually, you'd start them in one condition, and then by the end, we started this one, and then had to come back, and I was desperately trying to get back to get a bit more time on that last day, because I knew that the bit we'd done didn't match at all. So, but bless him, I was going to say Mick, the grader, who's done an amazing job on this whole episode. It looks
He is
beautiful.
extraordinary.
Hurrah for Mick! Who never
Hurrah for Mick.
often gets.
We should probably
Mick always
explain what
cheers me
grading
up.
is.
Oh.
Yes. Okay.
Because
Grading
I
is
don't think I would know.
fine. Well, grading is basically the last finishing touch to the film. So we get all of the rushes, put it all together, and it's all there. And basically, Mick then, well, it sounds simple, but he basically takes all of the colours and all of it, makes them as rich and as consistent and as beautiful as possible.
I mean, the consistency is a massive one, isn't it? Because our light changes so much, the weather changes.
Yeah. So he evens out all the different scenes, so all the shots that maybe don't match or slightly different colour, he evens them all out, but then also makes them really sing and make them really
Well,
beautiful.
he made the sky blue.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yes.
He played God with the sky.
Exactly.
We had blue sky, consistently blue sky on our last day, didn't
Exactly.
we?
Exactly.
But the first day was a sandstorm, and the second day...
Gloomy, wasn't it?
The second day was a bit gloomy, even though it was clear.
But it was great that it was sunny for the last day, because that was when thankfully our big, huge wide shots are real blue sky. So Mick could then match everything else to them. But my God, that's a big challenge to sort of do all these little shots and stuff. But obviously,
Is grading? Can you do more with grading now we're on high definition and there's more picture to play with?
yes, there's another benefit of being on HD, that there's literally more information.
There's more
to play
detail
with.
to pick up,
So
Quite a lot of technical detail on this commentary. I hope we're not boring people to death.
No, let's
I
get
think
into
it's
some...
fascinating.
Yeah.
It is.
I think it's good. We're making it.
We are making it.
Interesting,
It's
aren't we?
scintillating. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Mick will be enjoying listening to
bless
this.
him.
You know, it was such a big job. He did clench his teeth a lot, and I'm sure he's keeping orthodontists across the country in business, frankly.
Right.
Yeah. 3 days it took him. It normally takes
3
him 2.
days.
So
Oh, really?
a whole extra day of work. But it's well worth it. It's amazing. But of course, this was
Yeah.
this is the stuff we shot before we went to Dubai.
Yeah.
On our bus, on another bus, which we then had to get
Inside.
after our bus had damaged.
Inside our studio.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a rainy day in Cardiff with basically a big photograph round the outside of the bus, backlit.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's
It's a translight, I think is the technical...
translight.
A beautiful translight for the art department. But it is
It
based
does
on...
really work. That lighting by Rory Taylor is brilliant.
It is. It is. It feels hot. It feels...
Do you remember though? One of the few times Russell and I came on set, we did have a panic about the view out of the front window.
Yes, you worked.
Remember?
You walked on set. Luckily, just as we just started,
It was lucky.
the very first scene in the bus, and the way they think to get away with the fact that it's not actually really the desert. We're in a studio in Cardiff. Is that we have the translight, but actually if you light it too nicely or too correctly, you can see too much. And actually, what we had to do was muddy the windows and light with lots of flares and stuff coming in, so you don't actually. You're slightly distracted. The audience. They're not actually getting a clear view of what's beyond the windows.
I think the use of the flares is brilliant. Something you often spend a lot of time eliminating on set, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where light leaks into the lens
Yeah.
in a way to make... We'll see one in a minute and we can show what we're talking about. But
There's a massive one behind your head in a minute.
In a second, isn't there? That's a
Oh, I
flare. That's a
love
big
that.
flare.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. But it just makes you believe that you're somewhere very hot.
Yeah,
And very...
and it was lovely because you're always saying to the cameraman, "Oh, can you lose the flare,
Yeah,
the flags
yeah.
and stuff?"
Yeah.
and we embraced them, and there's
There's fewer in the final cut than I was expecting because it felt like we were putting one in every shot.
yeah.
There's a beauty to it.
They're in every scene. There's
Right,
one in every
right.
scene.
So here we are back on an icy cold
Adam
night.
James, I've known for 10 years. We did a play together at the Manchester Royal Exchange, and he's been banging on to me about getting him into Doctor Who since I started, to get him to come and play a part. I've had no joy whatsoever. But then...
Then I met him last year doing Hustle.
Yeah.
And then he banged on to me.
Yeah. And you managed to get him in.
And there he is.
But also, I met him last year when we all went on a little trip together.
Of course, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
He is hilarious. He's one of the funniest men
Yes.
I've ever met.
And here he is. Bless him.
Very pleased to finally be in Doctor Who.
He's great. And he just kept going on these cold nights.
Yes, he did. And he was always left. His bit was always right at the end.
Oh.
It was always he sat in his little police car with Norman, the extra, and then pulled out right at the end.
Yeah.
But
David, you can't have had much time with him, though.
No, that was the only slightly disappointing thing. We have sort of one scene together at
It's
the
a
end.
tiny
A
scene,
tiny
isn't it?
little thing, yeah. So, no, we didn't really. We hung out a bit between, but...
What I love about this episode is the sort of contrasts. So we've gone from the black and the blues and the night into the reds and the golden sands of and reds. It's lovely.
Oh, what a great cast.
Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya there. Is that how you pronounce his second name?
Yes,
Kaluuya.
that's very good. Yeah.
Is not only a really talented actor, I think he's great, Daniel, and he does some things in this that are just fantastic. He's also a writer. He writes Skins.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, did you not know that?
No.
He writes episodes of Skins. Well, I think he's also in it.
I knew he was in it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise.
He writes it.
Yeah, isn't that brilliant?
Wow.
Didn't you pass him your CV, James?
I said, yeah, well, yeah,
I
I
passed
would have
him
done.
mine.
Yeah.
And that's back in Cardiff.
There
That
it
shot
is,
as well, isn't
yeah.
it? And then we're in the desert.
Yeah.
It's
That
a
is
bit of a
brilliant.
jigsaw, isn't it?
Is that quite hard, David? For you kind of matching your performance and doing it across weeks? I mean, in an ideal world, you'd want to do everything
You
in
do everything
order.
chronologically, wouldn't you? But you never do, so you're
No.
very used to that
Yeah.
way of working. It just means you have to be...
Is it just practice that makes it easier? Did you find it quite hard when you first started TV work?
I don't think it's as hard as people think it is, actually.
Right.
I don't want
That's
to
interesting.
undersell...
Oh, go on.
undersell the
Create
brilliance
a
of my
bit of
profession.
myth.
But as long as you're all over the script at the start, as long as you know the
Yeah.
story, you know, you kind of slip into the I don't know, I suppose directing is the same, James.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hang on, my David Lean moment. Big,
That is
huge,
beautiful.
big, wide shot. But yeah, we never shoot anything chronologically, so
No.
you kind of never ever.
Just get used to that way of working.
I think actually the big part of your prep is each day just reminding yourself what's happened before and what's happening next, and that's where our script supervisors, Klinos, is brilliant
it's a
about
miracle.
sex. I tell you what, she's looking pretty calm because of that, or he should be a bit more excited because of that. And that's, you really rely on the wonderful Klinos and Non and all those people who help us get through it. Really, they're amazing.
We should talk about this sequence of scenes with Michelle and I. This was all done on our last day in the desert. It was supposed to have taken a whole day, but because anything else had gone wrong, we had to do the whole lot in a morning, really.
Yeah.
So all the stuff with Michelle and I, and later with the Tritivore on top of the hill, all these big wide shots, we're supposed to be in a nice bit of virgin desert without any footprints. And, of course, we turned up in the morning, and where we were supposed to film was covered in tyre tracks because... What you do if you live in Dubai of a weekend is you get a little 4x4 out and you go bashing across the dunes.
I think that looks like a lot of fun, I've got to say.
So much fun. But not a lot of fun for us who were trying to, find lots of expanses of sand that didn't look like anyone had stood on them in 10,000 years.
And David, when you're very conscious of the schedule, you're very practical, but how much does the kind of stress of time ticking away affect you? Can you just turn off from that and just keep going, or
it depends? It depends how bad it is and how high
well, let's
the
be
stakes
honest.
are.
This was quite bad, and the stakes were pretty high.
After the first day, I think I was feeling it quite keenly because you just thought. We all thought we've come all this way.
That's the worst thing. You'd give all this way.
There's a lovely flare.
Flare.
Yeah, it would come all this way, all this planning and
the bus, we'd been over the bus trauma.
Exactly, we'd conquered so many traumas to get there and then thought we're finally going to be defeated by the weather.
Yeah.
And we're going to come all this way and we're going to end up, it's either going to just look like we could have filmed it on Ogmore Beach or we will end up having to film it on Ogmore Beach.
We'll have to come home.
We'll have to come home.
We haven't finished. We had to,
and there'll be another reroute as to why our breath is freezing. So... but then as soon as day 2 started, actually, and we realised we were getting away with it, I think the first morning everyone was a bit tense, waiting for it to start raining or something.
Yeah.
But then once it started, and because you were aware that we were getting stuff that we just couldn't get anywhere else in the world, it suddenly started to feel exciting. And like even on that last day when we went out to get that stuff in the slightly more remote location, and we took a kind of commando unit, didn't we? We took a smaller crew, and we went with the Dubai
the locals,
the Dubai locals who sort of drove us over dunes in the most extraordinary 4x4 driving, where you let exactly as it says in the script, where you let the air out the tyres and drive like a lunatic. Over all
we
these
got
dunes.
stuck. Did you see us? We got stuck on the top of that. It's a little bit scary, that bit, but yeah. So
we were suddenly in the middle of nowhere, and you just thought, this is really exciting.
Yeah.
Now I love your relationship, the Doctor's relationship with Malcolm here, played by the marvellous Lee Evans.
Well, it's a great bit of character work, isn't it? In the middle of this, from Russell and Gareth to suddenly have this.
Really touching,
kind of,
really funny, brilliant man. Yeah. He's like a mini Doctor.
Do you find that hard? Because it's usually me that's reading the other end of all these phone calls.
And you do it so well, James.
You're so good, James.
Bless you, thank you. But I mean, it must be a little bit tricky. I suppose again, it happens so often.
Yeah, it does happen so often. I had the advantage in that Lee was first. So I actually got given a DVD of all his scenes, so I could sort of match to him a bit. Especially with someone like Lee, who's so idiosyncratic and so has such an incredible energy, it would have been difficult not to have seen what he was doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much homework do you do every night, David, when you're filming? On average, how does it tend to break down?
It depends.
When do you learn your lines? Do you actually learn them the night before, or do you learn them weeks before, or do you start the process?
It's sort of an ongoing, rolling thing where you're kind of learning a few weeks in advance a bit, and then you're polishing it as it comes up, and then you go over it the night before, really. And you're kind of always kind of keeping it juggling, I suppose.
Have they gone the second the scene's finished? Are they sort of a day later? You couldn't.
I don't know.
We often do pickups, and you've still got them. I remember, you go back to a scene, and
it's easier to relearn. Certainly, you go back and look at it again.
Have particular things stayed with you longer?
You don't really think about them again until either you come to do it in ADR, where you have to re-record some of the dialogue, and then it's interesting what's still in your kind of memory, rhythmically, if you're trying to, and what's feels like a line you've never said before in your life.
Oh, keep these teeth. Do you remember that? Keep these teeth. Sorry, it's an ADR line, which we need to look at later. Anyway, sorry.
Teeth?
Yes, that line in the bus earlier on.
When you're talking about the Easter egg?
Easter egg.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
keep
yeah,
these
yeah.
teeth. I'm sorry, we're digressing, but the take that we use isn't quite right.
This is very good for our podcast. This is live note giving.
Yes, there we go. It's an ongoing, evolving process.
I really want to keep these teeth.
That's it. So we use that.
Use that.
But we think, well, we haven't checked all your takes on that, so you might have... We might have other coverage.
Why? Are you not liking what you've got? Or
No,
something?
on the sync, it's just more urgent.
Yeah. The energy's a bit different.
Yeah.
Ah.
Anyway, back to the here's Paul Casey as a Tritivore. That was a surreal vision.
Yes.
He was
In the
all
middle of nowhere, Paul Casey with a big old rubber head on.
and he was okay in this, wasn't he? Because it had been designed by Neil
breathe.
Gorton's team, so that there was a little bit cooler than.
But Paul
it
would.
could have
Paul,
been.
I don't think Paul would complain if you.
What he
you
likes
know,
to suffer.
I don't think he likes to suffer, but he never complains, and we have
No,
made him
he's
suffer
got this-
many a
he's
time
got
and
a-
oft.
He's got amazing stamina.
He was another rewrite because when we got to this was in a Steelworks, the Mere Steelworks, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, Newport.
In Newport, where it was so cold that our breath was freezing, and so you then have a little pink page arrives
To
where I start
explain.
talking about the hull being made of photophene steel.
That's why it's so
I'm
cold.
freezing.
That's why it's so cold. You'd never know.
No. Now, this is one of my favourite sets, I think,
Oh,
actually,
amazing.
that Ed Thomas and the team have done, because it's so clever that it integrates. You've got sand piled up against the windows of when you look there behind them, and then Rory with the sunlight coming in and the flares. So it just still it feels like it's in the desert. It's just a ship that's
I thought the lighting in this set was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, in this location was amazing, and the purple lighting made it feel really distinct.
yeah, the purples and the
I've
yellows.
done that before.
No, it's lovely. And this was cold. I remember this was really cold.
Everything in this, in all this stuff, this was in the same steelworks.
Yeah.
This was in the downstairs bit.
Yep. And this was the day. Do you remember the entire country was completely covered in snow?
That's right.
Absolutely no one could get anywhere.
Oh, that's right, because I was on the phone to
Yeah.
the producer, Tracy Simpson, worrying about whether everyone had managed to drive up the motorway.
Well, the miracle was, somehow, around Cardiff, and between Cardiff and Newport, if you looked at the map of Britain, the entire country was completely covered in snow, other than this little sort of
The
circle
steelworks.
around Newport and Cardiff, which obviously was where most of our crew came from. The people coming from Bristol, they didn't make it until a bit later on in the day, in the morning. Actually, they weren't that delayed, but yes.
It's true, actually, because you'd phone London and people were trapped in their homes.
Yeah,
Nobody could get to work. And
Mike, the editor, couldn't get from Clapham to Paddington to come on the train, come back up. But there you go.
Well, I think he was just lying.
I think
to
he was
stay at
lying. He just
home.
had a hangover and
Yeah,
didn't want to come into
exactly.
work. But
Bless him.
I'm joking.
Yeah, he'll be listening.
He'll
He'll
be
get
listening.
you.
Sorry, Mike.
So, what was on this episode? What was your favourite day of filming, both of you?
Favourite day?
the final day is hard to beat just because we were, you know, the weather was with us. We were in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, filming this stuff that was unlike anything that had been on Doctor Who before, ever. Never mind since we've been doing it, but since, you know.
Yeah, the final day it was that because it was so proud of the fact that we'd gone there and we got what we needed to get and more because we got these amazing vistas that even they looked a little bit like, well, will we actually get them because the first place we'd gone to had all these tyre tracks and then we were being chased by sort of quad bikes and people and we just managed to get these bits and meanwhile the plucky second unit were kind of merrily shooting our bus with everybody, you know, and people were sort of we'd scrabbled together another sort of team who were doing all of the.
You call it a second unit, like we travelled out with 2 units.
Exactly.
That was just people dividing to try and get it done.
That was just half of us had just gone.
Take that camera and go over there and shoot some stuff. We'll be back at lunchtime.
Anything, shoot anything. Just shoot.
Shoot what? Just anything.
Anything. Make it look like the desert.
A bus
Point
just
it
in
at
the
some
desert.
sand.
I said to Dave Houghton, bless him, who
I
did
love
most.
San Helio City.
San Helio City is amazing, isn't it?
Dave Houghton, who works for the Mill.
Who was the Mill's visual effects supervisor,
supervisor.
was normally sort of in charge of this merry band, and he said, what do you want from the bus? And I wanted to just shoot it from every single angle you can. And he did. He took his team and they went round and they shot all those beautiful big wide shots of that bus. Thanks to them.
That is hilarious.
And that's thanks to them too. Well, that's thanks to
the
Dave
Mill.
Houghton
That's
and his
more
team,
more their job, but.
Dave Houghton, I think, is probably still out in the desert because he's so terrified of flying. I think he was thanking God for the sandstorm because, it would have meant a delay in his return. Oh. It's funny.
Dave Houghton, I can slightly digress for a second. Dave Houghton is not still in the desert because he was with us today, now filming the final.
Yeah, but didn't he come back by boat?
Well, he's only just arrived. Now filming the final ever story and doing stuff with green screen that I thought I'd got it after 4 years. And
a new one.
Still couldn't follow what on earth he was doing today. One bit with it was a blue screen.
Oh, yes.
We were filming with a blue screen today.
For a different effect.
For reasons I can't possibly reveal. And different things he was doing with blue screen and that bit there and then moving that person out. Still don't get it. I'm baffled by the genius of these people. Wow. Thank goodness for them.
Are you trying to find out things, James, about the last two-parter, or are you
No,
trying to live in blissful ignorance?
I don't want to know a single thing.
No.
You've overheard snippets, though, have you?
Not really. No, they've wiped them. I've wiped them as soon as they've heard them. So I'm just going to be a faithful viewer.
And David, there are increasing numbers of fans coming out to watch, aren't there? Filming.
I think there are a bit, but we're quite inside at the moment, so I don't know that they're getting much. They might be getting some people arriving, some of which is interesting in itself, depending on who those people are, of course. But we're about to go quite public as of next week, in which case all sorts of things are going to be appearing, no doubt, about what we're doing. But we'll hold on to as many secrets as we can.
How are you feeling as the end approaches?
Well, there's still 2 months to go, so it feels like quite a long way off at the moment. But obviously the fact that this episode is about to transmit does mean it is sort of the beginning of the end, I suppose. And this episode as well is kind of the 10th Doctor's last hurrah, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
yes, you're going on a.
He's having a laugh still here.
Yeah.
He's enjoying himself. The line that's about to come up. The worse it gets, the more I love it.
It's quite nice. I was quite pleased. I quite liked it was the fact that it wasn't tied with anything else before or afterwards.
No.
It's just a big old adventure in itself. And
there's a little sniff at the end, isn't there?
Yeah, a little twist
about what's to come. But
look at these little fellas.
Yeah, these are great.
That's exciting. I love their movement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Is this?
Well, we kept putting in more and more, or asking for more and more.
And I think that's not quite the finished one we're watching here tonight.
Right.
I think there's another one coming with even more.
Well, there's another one coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about working to the wire. We've got 18 different shots coming.
It is interesting that we are sitting here, 9 days from transmission, and you're still talking about things that are to be changed and things that are to be moved around. This is, I think, the tightest it's ever been, isn't it?
Without
in terms
question.
Of shooting and turning it around and getting it on the telly.
Julie, when you did the schedule for this, did you actually work out and think was there a concern? Actually, we can't do it. It's... Yes,
there was a concern, and if you recall, we had lots of conversations about how we were going to marshal ourselves.
Yes, you put it all on me, didn't you? I think you said it's your fault if we don't.
And when
you've got to shoot it quicker and edit it quicker.
Yeah, there were quite a few of those conversations. I remember when I went on the recce with you, there was a lot of conversation about. Now this will be
you can't.
We will not have a sandstorm. It was quite tough because we started filming middle of January and we knew at the beginning that we were going to be transmitting at Easter, And so there was a lot of frantic calendar checking to see where Easter was. Because sometimes when it's very, very early, that would have been impossible. But as things stand, we actually deliver the finished episode to BBC One on Thursday, and we transmit on the Saturday. And they really never like that because, you obviously have to tech review and do a lot, we do all that ourselves, but they like a little bit more time than, 48 hours.
Yeah. Which made all the sort of trials and tribulations with the bus, the weather and all that stuff, the sandstorms, even more
quite
incredible that we had all that as well as no time.
Well, had there been some disaster and we didn't get anything done in Dubai, had it been sandstorm day after day, and we'd had to come back, and I don't know. Well, who knows what we would have done?
Yeah,
film something on Ogmore Beach.
We would have been down to the Gower.
We'd have been. Every day has counted, hasn't it? Yeah. We'd have been totally stuffed if that had happened.
Yeah. And even in a tunnel, we did those tunnel nights. There was one night of, you can see it in some of the shootout later.
Torrential rain.
Absolute torrential rain. And luckily, we were doing the unit soldiers shooting a lot of it, and actually it kind of added to it, and you don't actually notice, but it was rain like I've never filmed in before.
I think the really tough area was it's always the shoot, but you go into the shoot knowing what your schedule is and what your finite minutes per day is, and then you have acts of God like the sandstorm, and you either catch up or you have to second unit. I think the hardest thing on this episode has been the post-production. Yeah, because while you were shooting, you then had to we had to lock the effects sequences really early.
Yeah.
Massively early, like a few days.
Which is really hard because you're sort of committing to the length of all these shots.
Yeah.
Usually they're in the context of the scene or the sequence or where they are in the story. We were just kind of having to lock them blind, really, weren't we?
The schedule post-production wise was tough for you and for Mike Jones, our editor. But then, more than anything, I think it was also incredibly tough for the brilliant sound team.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for locks that are, really hard to deliver on time, and these soundscapes are really complicated. When you're doing, this level of sound effect noises and animal monster noises, and the trackling is so complicated. So that's really hard. And Murray Gold writing the music, very limited time to turn this around and hit an orchestra recording date.
Yeah.
So. I don't think the tension's over yet, do you?
No, I don't think we're there yet.
Well, you've got a week today, you deliver, right? You deliver the finished, final, buffed and tuffed.
Yeah.
In a nice jiffy bag with it sealed and handed to the controller of BBC One.
Yeah.
But there's still bits and bobs to be finished off, so it's... but we'll get there. But I think also that kind of time pressure, though... In a weird way, when you sort of it focuses things, and actually, I think it forces something brilliant as well. And actually, I think it's made it what it is as well. I think it's.
Can I just ask? Did you put in a come on from the later bit in that earlier bit? There weren't two come ons, were there?
No, we haven't touched it. I don't think.
Oh, dispute podcast.
I'll have to check that. Unless Mike the editor slipped one in.
I didn't think I did. Come on both times.
I love that. Come on. Yeah. I snuck in the middle of the night and pressed a few buttons.
You put it in, Julie, didn't you?
Julie,
well, if I knew how to actually operate the Avid, I'd be in there every night.
God, no, don't learn that.
Otherwise... That's an editing machine, faithful viewer.
Oh, you look lovely there, David.
Thanks very much.
I like that nice big profile shot. And how brilliant was Michelle on this day?
Oh.
In the most freezing temperatures, hanging on a wire.
Well, this one's in the studio.
This is the studio.
But the bit before, when she was at the top of the well shaft,
that was so cold.
That was truly cold.
This location. I mean, what I loved. This was in the steelworks. It was unbelievably cool. But this big metal thing I'm sitting on was something that it's part of the steelworks.
Yeah,
right. It looks like something we built.
Yeah. It looks like it couldn't look like a more Doctor Who set.
No,
and it's actually we did the least to this that we did. We didn't actually do anything.
Didn't dress the set at all.
No, we didn't do any dressing. Well, I'm sure. No, they did. They did the control panel and stuff.
Control panel and actually the little door.
Yes, the little door, which is great.
Plywood, but
the big stuff,
the big metal thing that I'm sitting on and that Christina jumped down. Of course, it didn't actually go anywhere. So when she jumps in, she's jumping onto a green mat that we then becomes green screen.
It's 4 foot deep. But it's still... Yeah, we're walking around the steelworks on the wreckage, like, oh my goodness, you'd never believe that there was this perfect well shaft.
We always seem to end up in a disused steelworks and a quarry and an office block.
Yeah.
At some point on an episode, don't we?
I've spent my life in steelworks in the last 3 years. And
I'm in another one on Saturday. A new one, though. That's the thing. We're still discovering new steelworks that we haven't used yet.
Well,
this was a new one, actually.
This was a new one.
Yeah.
This was a good one, actually.
It was. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
I might pop out to see you on Saturday morning, David.
Come on,
I'd
Julie,
like
come
that.
and see us.
Yeah, can I come out?
Of course you can.
Why don't you come into the front? We've got a mixed review.
Well, that's not until
That's the afternoon. You're right, it's lunchtime. Yeah, the morning's your own.
David's laughing at us. Our social life.
See, come on.
You didn't do it twice. You did. You think?
I don't think I did it twice, but maybe I did.
Are you objecting to it?
No, not at all. I just wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, we definitely didn't take it from anywhere else.
Okay.
Look at that. That is a stingray death and a half. Or stun. Hooray.
Actually counts.
Now that prop, a beautiful prop, but it
heavy.
Was not heavy so much as sharp,
Was
with
it?
all these articulated joints that kept nicking fingers and giving you cuts and bites.
And there's a great shot on the desert which we couldn't use because remember that when you legged it over the sand dune with it and it fell apart just as you landed on the other side. So we have the shot with the start of you coming over the top, but the second you land, all the legs fall off. But
well, it was a beautiful prop, beautifully made, but it travelled many hundreds of miles and then ran up and down so many sand dunes. By the end, it was hanging together, literally by Phil Shellard, the props master's sticky tape. Really,
David, I sometimes think you are Phil Shellard's nemesis.
Oh, I am.
I think you are a destroyer of props.
I don't mean to. It's just, that...
Are you saying they're poorly made?
I'm not saying they're poorly made. They're incredibly made by an extraordinary bunch of very talented individuals.
So you were a destroyer.
But, you kind of have to run around with them and chuck them around. And
they take a battering. They
do take a battering, and that is usually my fault. But only serving the script.
Yes, absolutely.
And Phil never complains. That's the incredible that I'll suddenly...
Well, he hasn't got time. He's normally sticking things back together.
Yeah, I know, quite... Some extraordinary thing that's taken sort of weeks to create, and Phil just, ever been, that's all right, Gav.
That's all right, Gav.
No problems.
But not in that accent, actually.
Not in that accent. Why are we making him sort of Bob Hoskins?
He's gone Cockney.
Yeah.
Now, this does not look easy. That sand dune chase.
But it was not the sand dune you were expecting, was it? Because you were. I remember you saying...
it looked because we had to get up the other side of it, which was completely fine sand. So as we climbed up one side, it dissolved under us, and we thought, well, that was going to happen as we ran down the. It was a one-take trick. You can imagine we weren't going to be able to rake that sand dune and try it again. So we were expecting, but actually it was quite firm. It wasn't as difficult as it looked. I love that chucking the thing away.
That was the shot, actually.
Here's Tina Turner's fright wig.
There's the wig. There's the big wig.
Look at that. Tina Turner's wig.
Look at that hair. Look at that.
Cut away quick, and then it's the next day.
Look at the hair. Look at the hair. Now there's still the big wig.
Oh, is that?
And now it's back into the...
You are a bit Mad Max there.
I just had to keep running fast so you couldn't focus on it. By the middle of the second day, Michelle had a kind of face of sand, and I had hair of sand. So you couldn't shoot on either of us by about 2 o'clock on the first day.
2 o'clock, couldn't shoot any of the two leads. So it was great.
Tracy Simpson, our wonderful producer, just made me laugh so much when she phoned up and she said, all the sand stuck to my makeup on my face. All you can see is my two eyes through my shades.
It was a hard day to keep going, wasn't it?
Morale was a bit hard.
Morale was low.
When we trooped back to the hotel that night, there was many questions to be... Because I remember phoning you, Julie, and saying... Right, what do we do? Well, I mean, we were going to get Russell to do Mad Desert Storm rewrites, weren't we?
Well, we had some cuts. Remember, I gave you some cuts to the walk talk on the sand dunes. that you never needed to implement, but we had a bit of that.
Yeah. But it was because also we'd already shot all the stuff on the bus back in the studio.
Yeah, where everyone does not have Tina Turner flight wigs.
And
it looks quite calm outside.
Yeah. So that was kind of that was the worst thing about it, because even if we had written the stuff, I can't even imagine.
But even if we'd had rewrites, it just was physically impossible to get anything done. Because
Michelle looked like an English sheepdog. Because
so
the hair was everywhere.
So uncomfortable.
It was miserable,
and
you couldn't hear anything. We'd have had to ADR every single line of dialogue.
Oh,
well, the sound team wouldn't have minded, would they?
No, exactly.
It's not like they don't work hard enough on this, is it?
No, there's not enough on their hands.
I'd like to point out, faithful viewer, that was heavy irony. The sound team have nearly killed themselves on this episode, and God bless them for it.
Did you quite like bashing that prop?
I did quite like bashing that prop, but you always feel, you kind of had one go at it. So you're always slightly nervous that
we have one go.
We have one prop.
How many? They always ask, how many have you got of these?
Yeah.
Just the one. Just the one. Just the one. Yeah, just the one. So, just
He's
the one.
gone Cockney again.
Yeah, Cockney's Phil.
That was Danny Hargreaves.
Oh, he is Cockney.
He was for some reason the cut was his remit. I don't know. Danny Hargreaves, who was
special effects.
Special effects. Yeah. I suppose it's a grey area sometimes. Who's responsible for what?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the role of the tone meeting, isn't it? For everyone to stand back and say, no, it's not me, it's
trying to
someone
avoid
else.
responsibility.
But we seek them out, don't we?
We do. This was good fun, actually, wasn't it? I enjoyed doing all this sort of stuff on the bus with everybody. We have everybody doing shaking acting and lean acting.
Yeah.
And the music is just glorious.
I remember I had talked to Dave Houghton. The Mill had been sort of trying to, because they knew they were up against it in terms of finishing this, they'd got ahead of themselves by rendering the bus and having it in their computer all ready to go. And then the
we
bus
smashed
got
up
wrecked,
the bus.
and they had to start again.
Do nothing, get ahead, you see.
David, you're sounding a little bit gleeful.
Only because we got there in the end. Mind you, I say that, it's still 9 days to transmission. Maybe we won't. But there were moments on this, I think, where we all thought, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
We've finally been defeated by circumstance.
You're flying a bus.
Yeah.
I am hooting.
Yeah, I'm flying a bus.
I just like your mad life. From Hamlet to flying a bus. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's the definition of an actor. Hey. How much do you... And I know what the answer I want... But how much, James, do you...
She's asking me. This is prep, shot lists,
do you know, it is
storyboards.
It's storyboards. How did you
Homework.
see that coming? How much do you stick to the storyboards?
Well, if it's an effect shot, then we probably do stick to them quite a lot, because we've
note
kind
the use
of
of the word probably there.
we've kind of agreed them. But you have to kind of make it work on the day and in the moment and stuff.
But this is very close, isn't it?
Yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty close. And actually, the more you do, the more you kind of get to know what you can do. So therefore, you can storyboard them a bit more. You can storyboard them exactly how you want them initially. Whereas sometimes you kind of, you're trying to express what you want, and the storyboard doesn't quite capture it. So therefore, it's only when you shoot it that you can kind of actually see what you're going to do. And then on the day, you can. And also, like this was a good example of sort of where we could frame the stingrays flying through, so where they'd go, and that wasn't exactly how it was in the storyboard, but on the day we could have them, Dave said we could have them swooping right above the unit soldiers, so we had them lower rather than them shooting into the sky and stuff. So, but other than that, I don't tend to storyboard anything else really, because otherwise you just kind of...
And do you like the direction of the special effects sections, or do you find it time consuming and frustrating because you want to be with the actors a bit more?
I find the shooting of them can be a bit time consuming, because they can go on a little bit when you're shooting sort of empty frames of stuff, and there's a lot of elements and layers that have to be gotten, all good, but Yes, it's always unfortunately the thing that kind of when you're up against it and you're trying to do loads of stuff, they always get stuck to the end of the scene. Now, right now, plate shot, and everybody else is going and has a cup of tea, other than us doing the plate shots. But no, they're good. It's great. But no, I'd rather be with all the soldiers firing guns and everybody in the bus and all that stuff, which is marvellous. You know, all our soldiers are real soldiers who are serving in the forces, who come down on their day off, and you can tell they look the part.
Well, there's an agency that specialises in providing service people for exactly scenes like this in films and TV.
But it makes such a difference because they just know exactly what they're doing, and
they're really brilliant with the guns, aren't they? Looks very convincing.
It's great, that all those blue lights in the background, which is just a Cardiff car park, which looks like that every day. Yeah. But suddenly looks terribly epic in the back of that shot, doesn't it?
Oh, it's a great location.
Whoa.
Hey. David, do you find it weird that there's not really a nemesis in this episode, or baddie or sort of
Yeah, I suppose there's not really, is there? Yeah, there's the Tritivores who are just trying to get by.
Yeah.
And these... they don't even really have a defined name, the Stingrays, do they? We don't even really... who are just sort of doing what comes naturally, yeah.
Hooray for a kiss.
Hooray for a kiss.
Big old kiss. Now, we've moved this, haven't we?
Yes.
We moved it and we moved it back.
We moved it back. I got it wrong.
I was backing you up, James.
We all agreed on the day that it would work better later, but it spoiled Russell's gag. So
the punchline.
It didn't work. So we put it back to where
punchline
it was.
Don't stand forward of this line was a bit stranded.
Which none of us, awfully, none of us got that.
Yeah, I think it still worked in a different way.
Yeah.
I'd argue.
Yeah.
That's a complicated shot there. There's so many different elements going in there, aren't there?
The Miller have been amazing. A flying bus.
And that's the other
Chased
thing.
by a stingray.
On such a tight schedule, and we've got more effect shots than we've ever had in any other episode, which is amazing.
Oh.
But this bus you're getting off now, of course, is that's the bus in the studio. That's the bus, and this bus here is the real bus, which is completely undamaged. But we've managed to
just shoot
little bits
carefully around.
Although you can see in one of the wide shots, you can sort of, if you look, you can.
Oh, really? Oh, you can catch an undamaged bit at the top.
You can catch an undamaged corner.
Hooray for the 200.
Yeah, this is the only time we met. We only met for about half an hour.
He's a nice man, isn't he?
Lovely man.
Oh.
What a lovely man.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Oh, he's fantastic.
Did he have a nice time, James?
I think he absolutely loved it.
He did, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
He's such a mild-mannered chap as well. You forget he's done huge, big Hollywood films and so on, haven't you? Because he's so unassuming.
He's amazing.
He was genuinely so pleased to be there, and just kept saying thank you for asking me. And
so generous to people.
Yeah.
It's a big family thing, I think, for him, sitting down and watching Doctor Who.
His
so I
kids
think he's very pleased to be.
Oh.
But did have the crew in hysterics. He's just...
Well, just seeing him in that extinguisher scene, that night shoot, that day of shooting with him there, gosh.
Yeah, he's brilliant. See, because even like this day, if we'd had the weather, we'd had the night before, which was the torrential rain.
Yes.
This entire scene would have been would just have been impossible. So we were also incredibly lucky with everything we had to deal with.
Oh, I love you in that moment, David, about the TARDIS.
Oh,
it's so affectionate.
Is this the first episode we don't actually go into the TARDIS? Or has there been a few before where you don't? Not many are there?
It's rare that you never see inside it at all. It's rare you see that the episode starts, as this one does, with the Doctor kind of already in the midst of a mission. This is my favourite scene, I think, probably, actually.
Is it?
All the bangs and crashes, it's these little scenes.
Yes. Oh, and you're so dark here.
Shell's a marvellous orthodontist, doesn't she? Look at that.
She's
is.
not bad.
She's got a big old toothy grin there.
Beautiful smile.
Yeah.
A beautiful smile. That Hollywood smile, probably.
Yeah, well, it probably is, yeah.
That's why
Although, again, that's the other thing with Michelle. You think, she's been off in Hollywood being the lead in an American series.
I know.
And she couldn't be more, and I
Yeah.
mean this in the best possible sense, normal and down to earth and pleasant and
she's a
lovely to
trooper.
be around. And yeah.
She's extraordinary. What's she doing now?
I think she's having lots of those big Hollywood meetings, and I'm sure she'll go on to big things.
It was recently reported that she's playing Jade Goody in the Jade Goody story, but I think that might have been a tabloid story.
Yes.
Let's check with her how true that is.
Yeah.
And look, you're finally with Adam.
Yes, briefly, and I don't even look at him.
But he looks at you when he walks off.
Yeah.
If you know.
I kind of. Who are you, mate? Look, yeah.
Yeah. It's just enough. It's great.
And here's the little precursor of doom.
Oh, David. Look at this.
And really from this moment on, the Doctor's card is marked, isn't it? Because when we come back in the waters of Mars, it all's got that little bit darker, and
David, as we know, he really does knock 4 times.
yeah, absolutely.
I can't bear it.
And if you think you figured out what that means,
Don't-
you're wrong.
Oh,
Yeah,
but when you do figure it out, it's a sad day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
It's
Yeah.
such a sad day.
Did you think you know what it meant, James?
No.
I
Right.
sobbed my. I sobbed
Well,
my
no, I
way-
did actually. I think yes, I think I did.
It's not that.
Right. Good.
I
Glad we
sobbed.
cleared
I
that up.
sobbed my way through the read-through, James.
Oh.
It's very
Are
sad.
you feeling sad, Julie? Because obviously you're also approaching the end.
I am.
Are you feeling the...
I'm displacing my angst.
Ah. For 5 years later.
That's right. No, it's going to be terrible. Really terrible.
It'll be a loss.
It will be an absolute terrible loss.
What are we all going to do? We won't be able to meet like this and sit and
I
talk.
know.
Or we will. We just won't have...
We just want
Instead
to
of Doctor Who
listen to
talk
us.
about.
I'm wondering who the first member of crew is on Facebook or something else to start a series of Doctor Who reunions. Surely,
Oh, no.
someone,
The
who's
first
going
one
to
will be
break
really well
first?
attended, and then it'll all fade away.
Oh, you
Well, of course, Doctor Who
cynic.
continues.
All good things.
Let's not pretend Doctor Who is finishing.
No, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
We may well...
We hand the baton over.
We hand the baton over and then we go off and have our own little
Hooray.
sad reunions.
Now, this bit coming up wasn't... The bus wasn't meant to draw level to the TARDIS, was it? This was an extra effect shot we put in on the night.
Yeah, because when we blocked it, I realised David had
I had to be back up at the
back
TARDIS
up by
for
the
this.
TARDIS, so therefore we had to have an extra shot to bring the bus over to you, so that you could have that
Bringing
conversation.
that conversation over about over about half a mile.
Yeah, or standing right next to the police officers who
Yeah.
yeah. And there she goes.
There she goes.
Hurrah!
Off into the future. That's a spin-off series, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Lady
you
Christina
know.
and her flying bus. I'd watch that.
That's what we're doing next. That's what.
Yeah, don't shh.
Oh, sorry, I've spoiled it.
No. Thank you so much. I enjoyed that.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Well,
Well, and James, you didn't get orthodontist in. That
I
was
did.
our word faith review. I got it in first. You didn't even
where
hear
did you
it.
say it?
Did you slip it in earlier?
Well,
I had
I'm
to ham-fistedly talk about
scandalised.
Michelle Ryan's face.
I talked about Mick the Grader
Yeah.
chewing on his teeth so much so that he needed to visit
Oh,
an orthodontist.
you're absolutely right. Well
that's
done.
clever.
I'm
That's
so
good.
thrilled that you're
Julie
both listening to
Gardner.
me so intently.
I didn't realise we all had to get it in.
Julie
I thought
Gardner
it was
won
just one of us.
the competition.
And look,
to get
look, here we
orthodontist in.
go, Mars.
Oh, it's not gonna turn out well. I can tell.
It's really not going to turn out well.
But good for the plants, though. I'd imagine there's lots of
There's lots
water
of water.
there.
They're very well watered.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you
It's always a
very much.
pleasure. And
We'll see you again.